Good morning. Just leaving work, and while I was at work, I was thinking about something that I've been preparing for, which is climate. Now, for me, climate is my main concern because in Ottawa, we get a lot of snow. It's very windy. Just in September, we had the power go out for a couple days. Some places were out for a week because of some bad storms. We had some tornadoes, and one of them knocked out a power plant or a transistor station. So the weather is pretty unpredictable. But what do I mean by climate? Well, when I say climate, I mean weather and temperature combined. Because temperature is also a very big concern when one day it can be +5 and the next day it is -10. And that was the case between yesterday and today. It was very, very pleasant out yesterday. And although it looks pleasant here, it's about -10 out, I think, and very windy. Now, so temperature and weather are different. So with just temperature, you know, you have fire, you have clothes that can keep yourself warm with. But the problem with weather is that's where most of the concerns come from. Temperature is just about keeping warm, or in the summer, keeping cold. Weather, on the other hand, is dealing with the snow, dealing with high wind, which goes straight through most clothing that keeps you warm, stuff like that. And there's a very big distinction. So my car would do me well for the temperature. Where I have concerns and where I am improving on is the weather. So my car, if it was to snow really bad, cause the power to go out, and I need to leave the city, if the roads were not plowed, my car would not be able to do that. And that's a big problem, obviously. So one of my goals is by the end of this summer, I want a vehicle with 4x4 capabilities and a plow to stick on the front of it. This will also be something that I can use to gain access to my camping spots in the winter, because they lay down old logging roads and roads that aren't really maintained by the town anymore, in the city. And the problem with that is, I went to see actually today if I could go winter camping this weekend, but the roads haven't been plowed at all this winter. So that's something else that I'm taking into account. When you're making your preps to start out, you want it to be double practical. You can't obviously be putting away lots and lots of money towards something when your funds are limited and not get another use out of it. One of the main reasons that I started prepping here was because of the climate. It gets very cold in the winter, like I said, and we have bad weather. That combined means if the power goes out in the winter time, I will have to leave, because my house, well, I'm in an apartment. My apartment and most residences in Ottawa and in the city don't have a way to heat themselves without electricity or gas running. On top of that, if the power goes out for a prolonged period, the water pipes are going to burst. So it would become a shit show very quickly. When the power was out for a couple days a while back, the first day, the shelves were barren. And they stayed that way for a couple of weeks, actually. Nobody could get food. There was no milk in the city, no meat, even after the power came back on. The gas stations were empty. there was long queues to get gas, and there was talk of actually rationing how much gas you could take, because everyone in the city was trying to stock up on gas because they wanted their generators, their cars to be running, etc. So even when you think that there's not going to be something like that, there is, and I've lived through it multiple times. When I was a kid, we got snowed in a couple times, but in my adult life, this is the first thing that's actually hit me. And so that's my first experience in a disaster. It's not a major disaster. There was not rioting, there wasn't looting, but if that had happened during the winter, I guarantee you people would have died, because their houses were torn apart, nobody would be able to keep warm, and there would just be so much more property damage. So these are things that you really need to prepare for and take into consideration with climate. Now, that's my climate. What I would recommend is you also be prepared for other climates in your area. Well, what do I mean by that? If I lived in British Columbia, west of the mountains, I would be prepared for going east. If there's ever a bad earthquake on the west coast, you're gonna have two places you can go. You can go east or you can go north. And if it happens in the winter, you're gonna need something warm, because it gets really cold out in the prairies. Really cold. In contrast, one of my coworkers' sisters, she lives over in Victoria, and she just had to dig out her winter jacket for the first time this year, and she couldn't find it. So if she had to get out of the city, she would not be prepared. So what I recommend is, if you live in somewhere like that, if you live in British Columbia, or you live down south in the States where it doesn't get too cold, I would recommend that you have all this gear just in case. Just in case. Because if you ever need to use it, it's better to have it and not need it than not have it and need it. And that is always true. That is always true. That is why I am getting a new car. Well, probably a truck. And this holds true for everything. And I think that's really the basis of prepping. You would rather have something that you don't need, and people say, oh man, why do you have that, than not have it when you need it. Because guess what? When you're leaving, when you have a closet full of winter clothes, but it never gets -40, and then some catastrophe happens and you have to leave, all your friends will be saying, oh man, can I borrow some? And you know what you need to say to them? If you do not have enough for them, you know what you say to them? You say, sorry, but maybe you should have been ready. That's really the truth of it. Because if they are not prepared, it sucks to be them. Another thing too is, in your vehicle, keep something like kitty litter, sand, because if you get stuck in the snow, you're going to need to get out of the snow. And these are things that will get you out of the snow very, very, very well. Kitty litter is the best, I have heard. So you got to keep something in your vehicle for that too, because it doesn't matter if you have 4x4, sometimes you're going to get stuck if you get stuck on ice. Anyways, so yeah, that's all for today. So thanks for watching and have a nice day.